Okay. Hello, everyone. We are going to get started here in just a couple of minutes. It looks like people are still filtering in as far as attendees, so I'm going to let them get in, and then we'll get going here shortly. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. So hello, everyone, and welcome to this month's Sycamore Family Fridays, which is Indiana State's Family Program's virtual discussion series. So each month we bring you a new discussion about a topic that is important to our Sycamore families. My name is Debbie Barber, and I am the Assistant Director of New Student Transition Programs and Family Programs at Indiana State. Tonight, our discussion is going to be about the living learning communities that are available to our students who live on campus. So excited to have our panelists with us tonight as well. I'm going to have them introduce themselves to you all and talk a little bit about their role at Indiana State, and then we'll get started with our questions. So Jason, do you want to go first, and then we'll go through the rest of it.
Sure. Well, welcome everyone. My name is Jason Johnson. I serve as one of the associate directors in residential life, so that's housing on campus. And I specifically work with our living learning communities on campus. So I work with our campus partners. Some of them are on this call. Steph and I get to meet a lot and talk about a number of our communities and students. And so I work with that. I work with yeah, that is most of my job. There's a lot of other stuff I do, but that is what we're here to talk about tonight, and that's I'm excited to chat with y'all.
Steph, you want to go next?
Sure. Hi, I'm Steph Piercy. I work with our first year success programs in the University College here at Indiana State. Specifically, I work with our STARS program and our Project Success program, both of which are living learning communities. And so, yeah, that's my whole job is to help students be successful, academically, socially, 100%. That's what I do. So welcome. We're excited to have you.
Thanks, Steph. Dr. Mall.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Linda Mall, and I'm the Dean of the University College. It's my pleasure to be here today and to answer any questions you have. And as I think both Jason and Stephanie said so eloquently, that no matter what our position is at the university, our role is to assure that your student is successful, has a wonderful experience here, and achieves their dreams. And I will say that the first year college, which I oversee, that's its primary role, is to work with all first year students and to scaffold them and to support them and to work with them as they make their way through the first year. So I'm looking forward to our conversation today.
Thank you, Dr. Mall. And finally, Susan.
Hi, my name is Susan Johnson. I'm Executive Director of Advising in University College. We work very closely with the academic colleges on campus too. And no relation to Jason.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for being here tonight and taking time out of your Friday evening to chat with us a little bit. I'm looking forward to this discussion. We had several questions that were submitted by our families who registered, and we're going to get to all those. I'll make sure to try to get through all of those questions that we did get. But before we get started, I wanted to give our panelists an opportunity to kind of give a general overview of what living learning communities are. And thinking about what they are in relation to the first year experience on campus, but then also to just living on campus in general. So I don't know who wants to go first. Jason, if you want to kind of start us off, and then Steph or whoever can chime in afterwards.
Yeah, wow, that's a big question, and I'm a talker, so I'll try to be concise as much as I can. But ultimately, when we think about living on campus, in residential life, there are three big things we're trying to help students, and so this is kind of speaking to all living learning communities, first year experience, we want to engage with your students. We see our halls as more than just a place where they sleep and play video games. There's much more that's happening there. There's a lot of learning that happens in those kind of informal moments, in the programs, the engagements and stuff we have. There's three big things we're trying to do. One is we're trying to help students believe in themselves, self-efficacy. That is so important for us. And so that helping people engage with people that are probably different than them. Somebody who grew up over here and somebody who grew up over here have had very different experiences. And so how can we help them hear each other's stories and learn from each other? And then ultimately, how do they capitalize on all their experiences in the residence halls, on campus, in their time here and beyond so that they can be successful, both while they're here and after they've graduated. And so that's where we really try to focus a lot of our engagements and the ways that we interact with students in the halls, focus on helping them advance in those areas. When we talk about a first year experience, we're really talking about that kind of traditional living in a residence hall. There's some shared bathrooms, there's lounges, that type of thing. And it's a random assortment of people. You could end up with all sorts of people living in your community. When we think about living learning communities, it's actually a little bit different. And the thing I like to say is that from day one, you have something in common with the other people that you're living with because you're opting into this experience. You're choosing to be a part of something that maybe it's focused around a theme or an interest like leadership or sustainability or social justice, or maybe it's more academic based, right? It's around you're an aviation aviation major, and you want to be around other folks that are going into the aviation field, or you're in the College of Health and Human Services. You want to be out there in the health profession, and you want to be in a building with other folks that are going into that as well. So that's how it kind of breaks down. It can oftentimes, for students that coming to campus can feel like a big change. I was from a small town. Going to a campus I was like, this is a lot of people. And what it can do, that living learning experience can do, is you've now got something you're in common with people day one, but it makes it a much more intimate experience. And all of our living learning communities, they have experiences that are specifically designed for that community. I think of Spark. It's our entrepreneurship and innovation community. We've got a faculty member that we work with that, and they've got pitch competitions, they've got workshops with local entrepreneurs and businesses. And one of the things that we're working on and hope to roll out next year is some trips to go to some different startups near Indy. So students can kind of see some of that. And some of those might even be alumni as well. So there's these signature experiences that you get in all of these communities, just because you're a part of that community that not every other student gets. That's kind of one of the big benefits of being in a living learning community. All those are benefits of living in a living learning.
Steph, do you want to add anything to that?
I think Jason did a great job of talking about living learning experiences. I think that there are, in terms of those experiences that are unique to each living learning community, I think those are so important because, like Jason said, you start out with people you already have things in common with, you have shared events that you're going to, and some of our learning communities, you even come early. So for Project Success is a bridging program, and students come a week early. And so you come a whole week before classes start, where you get to start building those relationships with your students. We bring in people from all over campus to help you get to know people on campus who can help you, and where they're located and how to find them and what their stories are. And so we have such a wide variety of living learning communities on campus for first year students that they're just such a great experience for incoming first year students.
And I know, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say and to just put some scholarship behind all of this. It's not just that we know because of having having worked with these living learning communities, having seen students, our own students go through them, that we know that they benefit students. Scholarship in terms of student learning, student success, persisting the first semester, making it through the first year, graduating on time, suggests that students who get engaged with one another, get engaged with a staff member, whether that be a professor or a staff member, and get engaged fully in the university experience. So that would be, as Stephanie suggested, programming. It would be in terms of doing perhaps co-curricular or community engagement. And it would be, as Jason suggested, having these high impact experiences where you are using the skills that you are learning rather in your academics to apply them into a real world experience. So scholarship has told us for 20 years that that living learning community, building community, is an actual tool by which students become more successful, and it's measurable.
Exactly. And I know, Jason, you mentioned earlier some of those living learning communities that we have on campus. I want you to, if you can, talk a little bit more to those and what the variety is of living learning communities that we do have. And then I also want to give Steph an opportunity to talk a little bit more about STARS and Project Success as well. So Jason, if you want to start that and just kind of go through because we do have quite a few living communities that are available to students. So I want to make sure that our families hear what those are.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll add one point to what Dr. Mall, Dean Mall was talking about. I was actually just looking at data the other night, and it follows suit that our students that live on campus are enrolled in more credit hours, earn more credit hours, and have a higher GPA than their peers that live off campus. And like that's data. I was looking back to spring 2018. And that is true for our students. And what we also see is we tend to see students that participate in these programs tend to do better academically because, as Dean Mall said, they get connected, they feel that sense of belonging on campus. So it's the scholarship and the data backs up the scholarship. So it keeps feeding that way. Well, to give you kind of a quick overview, I think we sent out these to folks over the past couple of weeks. If you haven't got it, you should be getting it soon. But our website also has a lot of information, the indstate.edu/reslife, but I'll kind of run through them real quick. I kind of classify them in two categories. We've got kind of academic-based ones and ones that are more interest-based. And even some of the interest-based ones are rooted within some academic programs. So our academic-based ones, we have aviation, which is focused towards our students that are in pro-flight, aviation management, and unmanned systems. We have our College of Technology community that for any student who has a major that is within the College of Technology is eligible for that community. We have our College of Health and Human Services. Again, that's anybody that's within that college can be a part of that. We actually have a subfloor within that community called Health Professions, which actually allows us to build in and bring in some of those students that have majors that aren't part of that college, but like pre-med, pre-pharmacy, pre-ophthalmology, those pre-professional programs. It allows them to get into that because we know they're going into the health field as well. We've got our Honors College, which students that are part of the Honors College, we have communities for that. I honestly say that's one of my favorite communities because it has been around probably the longest, and it's multi-generational. So you have students that are first-year students all the way up to seniors. So there's a lot of informal mentoring and things that are happening in connection between students. They really get this kind of multi-generational feel in that community. And then we have our secondary ed. So those that want to go into education, but still have to get a major, you want to be a history teacher, you got to get a major in history, but want to go into education, we've got a community for them. Our more interest-based ones are, we have I Succeed, which is a partnership with the African American Cultural Center. And that is really providing mentorship and support for traditionally, or rather historically underrepresented students. And that's a great partnership we have with them. They run that program fully. It's fantastic. We have Integrate, which is focused around social justice and the study of social justice. We have Lead, which is focused around leadership and studying leadership and figuring out how maybe could you be a leader amongst your peers. We have Eco Reps, which is focused on sustainability, and that's more than just recycling. I'll say it's more than just recycling, but sustainable systems and sustainable ways of on campus, but also out in the world. We have Spark, which is focused around innovation and entrepreneurship. That was when we just started a couple of years ago. We have I feel like I've got a ton of them. We have Lingua Franca, which is a partnership with the languages, literatures, and linguistics. I probably got the L's in the wrong order there, but it's a partnership with some faculty in that. So that's really focused on students that speak a language and want to continue to be engaged in that language. We're going to try to have folks be roommates together, but then there's a lot of kind of cross-cultural things that happen in that community. We have a ROTC community, so students that are part of the ROTC program. That's a partnership we've started this year. So folks that are in ROTC want to live with other folks in the ROTC, because we know that life can be a little bit different. So having that support structure of those other students living together is huge. And then we also have a gender inclusive community. So folks that are part of the LGBTQ plus community or are allies to that community, we'll let anybody live with anybody in that community. And so, yeah, that's a big scope. I didn't do long-winded descriptions on all of them, but that's some of them. I know Steph is going to talk about project success and STARS a little bit more deeply.
Well, then I guess I will. So I work with both our STARS program, which is, I can't remember, STARS is an acronym, and it's escaping me right now. Students and leadership stuff. But that program is geared towards our students who in high school maybe had some struggles. And so they didn't necessarily make the 2.5 high school GPA that's necessary to get regularly admitted to Indiana State. So we bring those students in and we offer a ton of wraparound support. They have a dedicated academic advisor. They have a residential peer mentor who lives on the floor with them and meets with them each week to help them stay on class stay on track in their courses, very academically focused. They take a course together and they live together. And we work really closely with those students in terms of scaffolding and supporting them through their first year with everything from financial aid to social adjustment. We work with them with everything. So it's really kind of to help those students who maybe stumbled early in high school and weren't able to get their grades back where they wanted them to be. So we work with that group. And then I also work with Project Success. Project Success is, I'm going to say, our flagship University College living community. It has historically been a first-year program for first-year students only. We are changing it into a four-year program, so it will be a wraparound program that will stay with students all 4 years. It has a bridging program component where they'll come in a week early, like I said earlier. They get to move in with their roommates, so they get to know their roommates, they get to know their floor mates. We do sessions with them all together, so they get to start forming relationships with making new friends. We bring every resource you can imagine on campus in to greet them and meet them so that they know where the resources are, who the people they can connect with. And we focus a lot that week on building relationships because it's a lot easier for me to say, hey, remember you met Susan during Project Success and you have a question about advising, why don't you go talk to Susan? So connecting them with the people who can help, which makes students feel more comfortable. They also take a class that first semester and they actually start that class for that bridge week. So we spend that week with them in that class, helping them get to know the expectations of college classrooms and how that's different from what they experienced in high school. And how kind of what their classroom experience is going to be like. So that when they start all of their classes, when you start your college classes, you've already been in one for a week and you know it. And more than likely, you already have someone to walk to class with or someone to be in class with. But that program is going to be for 4 years. So the first year is really focused on transitions and all of the transitions you go through as a first year student throughout that first year. The second year, we're putting a really strong focus on leadership and helping you develop your identity as a student leader, as a global leader, as a community leader. The third year, we're really focusing hard on career readiness to get you ready to start talking to employers about internships and learning that your elevator speech on, if you're in an elevator with your dream employer, what are you going to say to that person when you just have that 3-minute time in an elevator? So really focusing on that career readiness. And then the fourth year, we're focusing hard on research. And so students will do a culminating research project on their major or on an area of interest to them that will really kind of highlight how we're lifelong learners and that continuing learning process once you leave higher ed. They will also have residential peer mentors, students who live on upper class students who were in Project Success, who will live on the floor with them, will help meet with them weekly, help them stay on track academically, help them adapt socially. We're working really closely to work with our alumni mentoring so that we're going to bring alumni in to meet with students so that your student can, or you, if you are a student, can meet with someone who had your major in college, and you can talk to them about what they're doing now and what they did in college to build their resume so that they could get their dream job. So we're really excited about this program. The other thing about Project Success, because one of the questions that was asked is if there's an additional cost, and so I'm going to throw this out there while I have it. Project Success does cost $75 for students, and that pays for your food the first week, and that's really what that is. But after your first semester, there is opportunities for scholarships. So there is funding available through Project Success that's a little bit different as well. So we have a Bridge the Gap scholarship that helps support students who just need a little bit of financial help. And then our big scholarship is for their junior and senior year. You can apply for one of our scholarships that will pay full tuition for your junior and senior year. As long as you're meeting our requirements of the program, you're meeting with your mentor, you're doing the things, and then there's an essay that you'll write. But full tuition, junior, senior year. So we're really excited about that. We also have some summer opportunities that are going to be out there. There's going to be some scholarships for study abroad and some cross-cultural experiences. So there's just so much going on, and we're really excited to launch this as a 4-year program.
Yeah. So as Stephanie said, that this is something this program we're extraordinarily proud about in the University College. And I just want to underscore that by saying that because of the early success of the program and our ability to demonstrate with the first semester persistence rate and then the retention rate of students in the program for the first year, though am I demonstrating what I mean is those students outperform their similarly situated peers by about 20 percentage points. And they also outperformed the entire cohort of first-year students, probably by about 3 to 5 percentage points. And because of that data, the president of the university decided for us to apply for this Lilly grant, $2.5 million Lilly grant, which has allowed us to extend this program for 4 years. And we are now in the running for $6.5 million from Lilly as a result of the success of this program. So this program has a proven success rate track, I should say, and that students who enter into it really outperform their peers. And that's much due, and I wouldn't say that's not much due, it's absolutely due to the work of Stephanie Piercy and her colleagues, and including the folks in Residence Life, Jason and his colleagues. So this is a collaborative endeavor across the university, and it's really paid off for our students who participate in it.
Absolutely. That's awesome about Project Success. It's really exciting to hear. So there are obviously a lot of options for students and a lot of different choices that they can choose from. So how does a student know what exactly is right for them? Maybe they are in the College of Health and Human Services, but then they also have that interest in sustainability or whatever. So how would you all suggest that students go about, picking, the right community for them when there's so many options?
I think I'd say you're not going to go wrong with any of them. It's that you're not going to have a bad experience in either of them. Now, I can't control roommates. I can't control what the roommates do and stuff like that. We'll work with you on that. But you're not going to get an experience that is bad in any of these communities. I think it's ultimately, this is probably one of the first big decisions you got to make, right? In terms of also deciding, that you want to come to ISU. That's probably the best decision you made so far. But I think that for a lot of them, it's thinking about what do you want to get out of your experience. If I was weighing sustainability and our College of Health and Human Services community, I'd really be thinking about, well, what do I want to do? And how do I want to do it, right? Like maybe I'm thinking, I'm going to go into the health field, but I really want to build a more sustainable health field. So maybe that feels like sustainability makes me lean that way a little bit more. Or maybe it's differently like, no, this is going to be my career. I want to find those people that I'm going to be friends with for the rest of my life that are going into the same field that I'm in. And that's what I want to think about. I'm willing to chat with anybody. I'll put that out there. There's people on this call, there's people who are going to watch this after the fact. I'll talk with anybody and help you kind of figure it out. But ultimately, it's up to your student to figure out what it is exactly that they want. We can put lots of information out there, but usually folks still have questions. And I know I'm certainly willing to, when it comes to Project Success and STARS and other university college programs and some of the scholarships they've got. I know Steph is like, I will talk to them all day long, and because that's what she does. And so that's a tough question to answer. Because I think you've really got to kind of tease out what is it you want to get out of your college experience and which one of those is going to set you up for where you want to go after your time at ISU.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know we had a question come in, Jason, while you were talking about students being able to switch communities. Maybe if they start in something and it's just not a good fit for them, do they have that ability to switch a community? Partway through the semester or a few weeks into the semester?
Well, yes and no. Everything's a gray answer with that. A lot of our living learning communities, and I know this is true for Project Success, has a course component that's attached to it. And depending upon when we're looking at in the semester, whether they can switch to another class or something like that, there's not a lot of flexibility with that. So we have to think about that. Now, not all of our LLCs have a course that's attached to it, but most of them do. Or they're, if it's some of those academic ones, you're in a section with like aviation. I'll use that as an example. There are multiple aviation 130 classes. I don't know what the 130 stands for. Some other folks on this call probably do, but aviation 130, what we actually try to do, there's multiple sections of that same course, just taught at different times, maybe different days, right? We actually work with the college to identify one section to put the students that are in that living learning community together. Now, obviously, if we need to help a student get into a better situation on campus, we're going to do what we need to do, right? And we will work with students too. A lot of the courses are typically in the fall. So if students, towards the end of the fall semester, we're like, this really isn't for me, they can finish out that course, that type of thing. Or if they wanted to move into a different one in the spring because they were like, this one didn't really work for me, we will certainly, work with students on an individual basis. We don't have a hard and fast rule on that of yes or no. It's just kind of looking at the individual student situations and figuring out what's right. I'll also say in terms of some of your students may have already filled out their housing contracts too, and may have already said, well, FYE, right, or another community. And if they've gone in there and looked at it and they're like, I think Project Success actually might be the right thing for me. As somebody who works in the housing office, we will certainly work with them to get change if they want to change anytime between now and probably about July 1st. I'll say July 1st because after that point, we have to start kind of looking at things and getting billing all adjusted and audited and stuff like that, and making sure that it's good to go. But yeah, we'll work with folks if something isn't feeling like the right fit, whether it's before they arrive or after they're here.
Deb, I saw that there was also a question in the question and answer, and it was related to project success. And it's a great question about who project success is attended. And there's actually a high school GPA range, and I will go ahead and let Stephanie make sure that we give the correct one.
Yeah, so project success is targeted at students who have a high school GPA of a 2.5 to a 3.25. It's really geared towards those students who are good students, but they're just not part of the group that typically gets a lot of support. I was that student, which is why I'm so passionate about that program and those students, because I was that student. So it's that 2.5 to 3.25 is really what we target for project success.
We also, Steph, had another question come in about project success as well. If you have to apply to be a part of it, and are all applicants accepted? And if not, what are the rates of acceptance into project success?
So our process right now this year is if you apply and you fit the criteria, as long as you're within the GPA range, then you'll get in. There is a separate application process, so you would select it on your housing contract, but then also you can go to the Project Success website and register, and it's from the university. So if you go to indstate.edu/UC, you'll see the programs and Project Success there, and you can go and apply there. And as long as you meet the GPA requirement, then you'll be accepted.
Okay. Well, we have several questions coming in as we're talking, so I want to make sure that we get to all of those. There is a question Kathleen is asking if the living learning communities are 2 people in a room, or is it just 2 people?
Yeah, most of our spaces on campus are double rooms. That's where it is. I'm not sure if we're going to have some singles yet available like we did this past year. Sometimes it's looking at what our numbers look like as an institution, and we might know that in the summer, or we might be able to offer that in the fall if students want to purchase out the other half of their room, or if there's an empty room on the floor, they could potentially move into that and purchase it as a single and something like that.
I'm gonna kind of go through these one at a time. Then we did have a question about the pro-flight community. The student has applied, so they're asking when they're going to find out if they've been paired, and if she's not paired, will she have time to join another community?
Yeah, so with that pro-flight program, I know that the College of Technology has still been making decisions around that and waiting for students to accept their decisions. And so we've actually been waiting for that list and those answers to get populated in the university system, so that I can then say, cool, you've got the right major, you're in the community. We're making decisions typically once every week. On Wednesdays are typically my day, so secret backstage information there, that Wednesdays are typically the day. And that's the same thing with Project Success. We're working with admissions and Stephanie to find out who is registered for the program. So sometimes students do sit in the queue for a little bit. We are trying to find out ways to reach out to them and say, hey, you expressed interest in Project Success. Have you registered for the program yet? So we try to do that and be as diligent as we can with that. And sometimes I even get in there a few times a week to do it. But yeah, so there would be time. And like I said, those decisions, we've already started putting some of those out there. And we'll continue to do that every single week, all the way up through, like I said, July 1st. So there's still plenty of time, and your student would have plenty of time if she didn't get in, or they didn't get into the pro-flight program, they're going to have to choose another major with the college anyways, and so they would have to with the College of Technology. And once that's identified, then we can help them kind of figure out what's a good fit for them community-wise.
How are the communities arranged in the res halls? So communities are in specific halls. How is that done and arranged?
Yeah, typically we try to plan for communities to be about the size of a floor or multiple floors. When it comes to when I think about like the honors college, there's like 3 buildings that they're within. They take all of Pickerel Hall, part of Burford Hall, and then 500 Wabash is where a lot of the returning students that are part of the honors college go, because it's more apartment style. Our other communities, they're kind of sprinkled throughout all of the buildings on campus. They are in first year, what we would traditionally call first year buildings. Most of the students, if not all the students in that building, aside from our staff, and our RAs, our resident assistants that are on the floors, and RPMs and stuff like that, peer mentors, are first year students. And sometimes it changes from year to year. To be honest, sometimes we just have to, because of different needs of communities, might have to move one over here because they have a faculty member that, or a campus partner that we're working with that needs some space to be able to have an office in the building, or they need more programming space or something like that. And sometimes programs, they go like this, they get smaller and they get bigger. And so we have to kind of balance that out as well. So they do kind of get sprinkled amongst all of the residence halls on campus. So I'm not even sure I could do it off the top of my head. I could probably get about 85% of them correct for next year, but.
And then can we go into a little bit more detail about the honors community and what that looks like and what that process, because they do have a little bit of a different process than others. So can we talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so honors, we work directly with the honors college staff, and I can actually call up the dean of the honors college, Greg, and ask him questions or talk about students or anything like that. Pretty much anytime I wanted. I could probably call him. He might even still be in the office right now. But they have offices that are actually right in Pickerel Hall. And we also have some other offices for them in Burford Hall. So they are actually in the buildings that the honor students are living in. And they have their own team that, in addition to what we do as a residential life unit, with programming and engagements and things we're doing in the halls, they're also supplementing that with a ton of other stuff. Some of their stuff is very student driven. They have an honors council that plans a lot of events for students to build community and stuff. So there's a lot of student ownership in the honors college community that really drives what those engagements look like, and the workshops. Most of our residence halls, and honors, I think of it specifically, we have some classrooms actually in the lower levels. So some of their classes, specifically their honors classes or honors level classes, may actually happen right in the residence hall. I mean, how great is that? You could potentially go downstairs to class in your pajamas. Now, I think Dean Mall would say, we really recommend that you actually put on like not pajamas and have a great presence and be really engaged. But how great is that if it's raining outside or it's a snowy day or something, you don't have to go outside. You can be right in that building for that class. And so honors also has their own process of admission and application and stuff like that that's separate from anything that we do in housing and residence life. But we work with them closely every week to get a list of who are the newly admitted honors students, and then we try to get them right into that, right into the queue to be able to choose a room and stuff like that. Which I'll put it out there too. I didn't say this, and it wasn't, well, I did say this, or I haven't said it yet. It wasn't a question, but room selection for students will be coming up too. We'll start that process in April. But it'll go all the way up through July 1st, and students can potentially move around and stuff like that. If they're like, oh, that roommate actually talking to them more, it's not going to work. So I'm going to set myself up for something different. That's going to be open. And again, our office is here to answer questions and navigate that stuff every day but Saturday and Sunday, but you can always email us.
So I do want to say that actually Dean Mall both teaches honor students, and she would be more than happy if we could all wear our pajamas to class on about 99 out of 100 days. So I'm all about comfort. But I also do want to say I work closely with with Dean Beerley. He probably is the most accessible, approachable, and a person that one could imagine, especially if you have an honor student. I like to talk to Dr. Beerley from time to time, and I have to wait my turn in order for, in terms of that he's usually visiting in his office with an honor student and talking through issues with them, or just talking to them about their favorite music or the book that they last read. I would also say that an important component of the honors living learning community is their peer mentoring program that they have, where they have more seasoned honor students work with first year honor students, because we know that honor students, while they're high achieving students, they too have transition issues as they come into their first semester of college, and they may be a little different than other transition issues, and having a peer mentor really assists with that, so that they know that somebody else has already gone through or experienced that, have the feelings that they're feeling as they're having certain experiences. So it's a good living learning community.
Absolutely. And speaking of the honors community, if you are in the honors program, do you have to be in the honors living learning community, or can you be in a different community?
You can do whatever you want. We do get a lot of honor students that want that, because they sometimes, like I said, it's that commonality. It's an identity for these students. And so being around, having that in common with other high achieving students, a lot of them want that. But that's not a requirement at all. If they've got someone who, if they're interested in another living learning community, or they're interested in another program, that's certainly option. We have a number of students that are honors that don't live in honors housing, honors college.
Awesome. And we did have a question come in about an art living learning community. Is there one available? Will there maybe be one available in the future, if not now?
I'll say not yet, because we are not in the business of saying no, but it's all about the timing and interest from students and stuff like that, and that's one that we haven't hit quite the critical mass for that yet. But I would love I would love our campus to be all these opportunities for students, and every student can see an opportunity that they could opt into. But art, unfortunately, is not one that we have up and ready to go yet.
Shameless plug, we do get a lot of art students in Project Success. I'm just saying.
Well, we're shameless in the University College, no matter what. But about plugs, that is. So what I was going to say is, we have the executive director of advising on the webinar, and I thought that since for Project Success students, but for all students in living learning communities, they're going to be advised by a University College advisor. The first year students, no matter what, will be advised by a University College advisor. Project Success students will be advised by a University College advisor all the way through their 4 years, along with a faculty coach. So I thought I could put you on the spot, Ms. Johnson, and I could have you talk a little bit about the philosophy of advising in the University College, and how that dovetails nicely with living learning communities and the other support and scaffolding that that the students are receiving.
Sure. So the first year, or the first semester schedule for students, we place them into classes that have been traditionally successful for our students. So they would be looking at probably a composition class, maybe a communications class, depending on their composition class, probably a math class, and then a class in their major, and a class that would be required for that is in line with their living learning community.
Super. And then also, in terms of our advising, it just to say that it is proactive, and so that we work really closely with students. We expect to see them regularly each month, not just for getting registered for classes, and it's holistic and developmental. So the advisors are trained to work with the whole student, not just the academic issues that a student may or may not have, but help them out, whether it be with counseling, mental health, any kind of financial issue in terms of being a liaison with the Office of Student Financial Aid, supporting them in terms of directing them to services like tutoring and supplemental instruction, math and writing center, and things like that. So it may be a very different type of advising parents that you may, and family members that you may have experienced going to college, where it was you just popped into your advisor's office once a semester to get registered for classes. That is not advising in the university college. It's very relational, and it's very high touch in terms of making sure that the student is moving through in the way that they should, so they'll be successful.
Absolutely. And I know we've talked a lot about the benefits of being a part of a community, but I know that we did have a couple of questions that were submitted, or concerns that were submitted about it maybe narrowing a student's experience on campus. So I don't know if we want to speak a little bit to that, maybe talk a little bit and ease those concerns that families might have about that, being a part of one specific community, if that will narrow their students' experience on campus.
I'm going to jump in and say that it doesn't necessarily narrow the students' experience on campus. I can tell you that because they're not just doing those things. There's a lot of times our living learning communities, and I know all of them do this because then Jason, as he said, we talk quite frequently. We encourage students to attend other events, to go to speakers, to go to performances, go to campus life events, to go to fraternity and sorority recruitment events. Because we want them to have the broadest and most encompassing experiences they can have as well. So it doesn't limit it. What it does is it provides a level of comfort for the student that that students who don't join living learning communities with, right? Because like Jason said, they have that connection ahead of time. And one of the things that we know first year students' biggest fear is meeting people and making friends. And so living learning communities creates that for them early, because they already know they've got something in common with the people they're living around, and the people they're around the most. And so I wouldn't say it limits anything. I would say it enhances everything.
Yeah, I'd say it helps them find their place. And when when it feels like when you find your place, you feel more confident to expand your place and expand your space, right? And so getting involved on campus, they're like Steph hit it perfectly. They're going to meet people in the dining hall. They're going to meet people in clubs and organizations. They're going to meet people at events. And if, being part of that community, especially like an academic-based community or interest-based community or project success, that's going to be a support system for them in a lot of ways. For a number of different things. And just because they're in an academic, some of those students, I hear it every year. We met in this program, and then when we decided to move off campus, we love when they stay on campus. I'll tell you that, we love it. But if they choose to go off campus, sometimes they're living with those same people. So they find some of these folks that first year, and especially in our living learning communities, that are friends way beyond that, and talk about a support structure that you have from your first year of college into your professional life. That's huge. That's huge. And knowing that you can jump into that with a living learning community experience is it's golden.
And I can share that last year's Project Success students, we have a pseudo Project Success second year floor in 500 Wabash, because we had a group of Project Success students who wanted to live together on the floor again. And so they all just moved together over to 500 Wabash. And that happens every year. Different buildings, different floors, but there's always a group of them that want to continue living together, and they make that happen.
Awesome. And speaking of, go ahead, Dr.
So sorry. I know that there was a question, and I know today's conversation is about living learning communities and living on campus, but we do absolutely recognize that we have students for a variety of reasons who commute. And I just want to say, with respect both to STARS but more importantly to project success. And Stephanie, of course, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I know this for the case for project success. We commuters participate in project success, and even with the new 4-year program, we can make it work for a student who, for whatever reason that it is needs to commute and is not able at this given time to stay on campus. So we'll be happy to talk to you about that, and also happy to talk about if your student has particular needs, the way in which in complementing project success we can assist your student with other resources that are available.
Absolutely. And I will share that for the past 3 years, the commuter services coordinator has taught one of our sections of project success class to work directly with our commuters. So we have had commuters the last 3 years in project success, and they get to connect directly with John Gettemeyer, who coordinates our commuter services, as their instructor. So we make sure to make that connection for them if they're not living on campus. But we also last year had a student who lived off campus, who the on-campus students felt bad that he wasn't part of their on-campus community, so they added him to their group me and then invited him to all their floor events, and so he was able to connect that way. And so, yeah, so we absolutely do have commuters, and it has been a really good, a good partnership that way as well.
Absolutely. So we are quickly running out of time, and it's coming up on an hour. It has gone by fast. We've had a lot of great questions, a lot of good conversation. Before we do close out, though, I do want to get in a couple of more questions real quick, just to make sure that we cover as much as we can for our families. So, Steph, I know you talked a little bit earlier about that small additional cost that it is to be a part of project success. Jason, are there any other costs that are associated with any of the other communities on campus?
No, there isn't. And I'll say that project success, that cost is really because there are dedicated staff and program and efforts to that are different than our other LLCs. So that's why there's a fee with that. And most of ours, part of it is that moving in early, a week early. Not a lot of our other LLCs have that as an opportunity. And so that is helping supplement and offset some of that cost. But no, there's no other fee for the other living learning communities.
Awesome. And so if somebody has already submitted their housing contract and they maybe did not indicate that they wanted to be a part of a living learning community, can they go back in and change that and update that?
Actually, they can just give our office a call or email us, reslife@indstate.edu, because we lock that so that we can actually go in and make a decision on folks' application and move them forward to the roommate search process. So, or make a decision on their living learning application. So they just have to contact us. We'll reset that page and they can go in and then apply for an LLC.
Awesome. Okay, and then last question, and then we'll finish up. So do any of the LLCs have any extra requirements? So some of them have that extra course component to them, but as far as co-curricular activities or any requirements as far as that goes, do any of those communities have that?
I can speak to I'll let Steph speak to Project Success and STARS and those communities. With our other LLCs, we have other things going on. Like I said before, we have those kind of signature experiences and things we try to do with students, but we don't make those mandatory. And honestly, it's hard to track that many students. To get attendance and stuff like that can be really difficult. You heard me list off all the LLCs. If I was keeping attendance for all those, that would be a full-time job. But what we really try to do is design those experiences to be things that they want to do because they've opted into that experience. And I know that's true for Project Success and STARS. Steph, do you want to talk more about that?
We do have extra co-curricular activities that are required for Project Success and STARS. Mentoring is one of the requirements. And then we have a list of requirements to be eligible for the later scholarships that students will have to participate in as well. For STAR students, absolutely mentoring and structured study is required. And then for Project Success, there will be events that will be optional, but then there will also be other stuff that will be required, again, to qualify for scholarship.
Awesome. All right, thank you all. So we have one more question come in, and I do want to address this really quickly because it is an important question and a topic that we will be talking about much more as the year goes on. Jason, do you want to tackle move-in for next?
Yeah, I can offer a quick perspective on that. Yeah, I actually pulled up the calendar here to try to look at the date and try to guess. I think, and Susan and Linda, correct me if I'm wrong, classes begin on the 17th of August, Tuesday the 17th. Does that sound right to folks? Okay, so move-in will be the week prior, and we actually, Project Success will come in that Sunday the 8th. So that they're there a whole week, and as Steph said, there's a lot of things that are planned for students to help get them acclimated, transitioned, familiar with campus in the Project Success program. But we'll have other we'll have chunks of time each day the students will be able to sign up for a time slot and move in during that time slot. I don't know if it's exactly going to start on the 8th or the 9th or the 10th, but I know that we've talked about that. It used to be just a Friday, Saturday type of thing. And we got a lot of great feedback when we spread move in over a week this year. And so we're looking at that. We're just refining what those time slots are on those days. And one of the best things too is dining plans will actually begin that Sunday. So you don't have to worry about buying a week's worth of groceries for your student. Their meal cart will be ready to go.
Yeah. And on that note, I'm going to shamelessly plug again, because I do this every webinar, is to tell families to tell their students to check their Sycamore email on a daily basis, because that is where all of this information in terms of move-in and all of those things, that is where that information is going to be sent. So it is so important that students, when they are admitted and they make that decision and they start those processes, that they are checking that Sycamore email on a daily basis, because that is how we will communicate with them. So it's important that they're checking it and that they're reading the emails as well. Yes.
I strongly recommend having them download the Outlook app and having them set up some alerts on their phones so that they remember.
Absolutely.
Because that will save them a lot when they get to campus.
Yeah.
I'm actually getting ready to send out an email to our Project Success students who have already started on how to go ahead and download that app. So.
Yeah, in our office, when students register for state startup, in that confirmation email, we also include instructions on how to do that and get it sent to their phones. So make sure your student is checking and reading their email.
Yes.
Yeah, that's where
with Project Success, I put all the events in their calendar, so they get calendar events for all the sessions, so that they have all that there too. So.
And that's where we send all the information about housing and picking your room, searching for a roommate. So, the more we can push that with students, the better.
Absolutely. Okay. And sorry, one more question, because I don't want to leave any unanswered. So if they are not living in a community, can they attend the activities of, say something that is going on in the honors community, or integrate or sustainability, any of those? If they're not, a part of that specific community, can they also participate in those?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. If you're not part of the community, you just cannot. I'm teasing. Yeah, I hope whoever that parent is there can see the twinkle in my eye. Yes, please. We would welcome any student to come to any co-curricular, to any program. I know that Dr. Beerley would feel the same as well. And so I do hope you saw the twinkle in my eye when I said no.
And with the honors community specifically, we actually give honors students access to Pickerel Hall, where the offices are, not 24/7, usually when the offices are open or if they've got classes in there. So they can kind of engage with the honors community, even if they're living in a different community. And yes, we may have students that live in Spark, but I can tell you if there was a student who was like, I didn't choose this community, but I'd really like to participate, we're not gonna hold our hand up and close the door in front of their face. We're gonna welcome them in. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you all so much for being a part of this conversation tonight. It's a really important topic. It's a big decision for a lot of students and a big decision for them to make. So I appreciate the time you all have spent going through that and, talking out those benefits and talking out, all of those details about our living learning communities at Indiana State. Thank you at home too, for all of you who have watched from home. I did record this webinar, so I will get that downloaded, and I will also be sending that out via email to all of our families. So if you missed part of the webinar or you didn't get to watch all of it for whatever reason, that recording will be sent out next week via email. I'll also have it uploaded to our YouTube channel, so it's always available if you ever need to go back and reference anything. As well, if you submitted a question and that did not get answered, I will also be following up via email next week to make sure that we address any of those questions or concerns that you may still have. Otherwise, thank you again for joining us, taking time out of your Friday night to spend some time with us. So have a great weekend.